From The Reporter, the paper of record for Delaware County's towns and villages, this is Off the Record, a quick look at this week's latest county news. I'm Andrew Kantor. This week we've got Roxbury in a tizzy about marijuana, a surprise resignation in Middletown, food banks popping up all over, and more. Let's get to it. Roxbury's town council is thinking about maybe changing its mind and allowing a marijuana dispensary at the north end of town, which would let the town collect potentially thousands of dollars in sales tax revenue. But a bunch of residents pretty much freaked out over the idea at the last council meeting. What were their objections? I mean, really, the only real objection is that they don't like marijuana. But they did their best to come up with some reasons. One, having a dispensary on the edge of town would hurt the town's family-friendly atmosphere. And that is just code for we don't like marijuana, because it wouldn't be anywhere near the center of town. Someone else claimed that Margaretville has yet to see any sales tax money from the county for its dispensary. So what's the point? That doesn't make sense for a couple of reasons. First of all, marijuana sales tax money doesn't come from the county. It comes from the state. Second, that's an administrative issue. It's not like Margaretville won't be getting the money. I mean, Sidney's been raking it in, $35,000 a quarter? But no one mentioned that. Maybe Roxbury doesn't need the money. Oh wait, it's planning to raise taxes more than 6% next year. Oops. Some of the objections seem to come out of the 1960s. One person was actually worried that children heading for school would encounter people buying marijuana, even though the dispensary is nowhere near the school, or there would be dealers selling pot to children on the streets. It's reefer madness. This would be a joke if these people weren't being serious. I mean, really, next they're going to be breaking up Dungeons and Dragons games or playing Taylor Swift songs backwards to listen for secret messages? So yeah, the dispensary wouldn't be anywhere near the school. It would be at the already existing growing facility at the north end of town. And if you know anything about this stuff, you know that dispensaries have a ton of security. It's not like a liquor store that anyone can walk into and grab a bottle. Speaking of which, the Roxbury Bottle Shop, a wine and liquor store, is a lot closer to the schools than the dispensary would be. It's right in the center of town. Look, if you've reached the point of worrying about non-existent problems, maybe stop and think for a moment. A small marijuana dispensary might not be a bad idea. The town could do a lot with the money. On the other hand, as a resident of Sidney, I kind of hope Roxbury doesn't get a dispensary. I'd rather people come to my town and buy it here so we get the tax dollars. And on the gripping hand, it might not matter, because it might be too late for the town to change its mind. Depends on the state. So it all could be moot. But don't tell them that. This is more fun to watch. A bit of drama over in Middletown, where Code Enforcement Officer Hiram Davis resigned again. Last time, back in May, it was because he felt overloaded, but the town got him some help, so he stayed. This time, though, he said it's because he feels unappreciated and overlooked. And it's not just a matter of not getting enough birthday cards. Davis found that despite all the extra work he's been doing, he'll be getting a smaller raise next year than the town highway crew, 3% versus 5%. And he didn't like the fact that employees like him didn't get to see the budget ahead of time. I guess so he could have said something before it was published. Town officials, they said they've tried to ease Davis's workload and that, yes, they do appreciate him. In fact, they were kind of annoyed that he felt otherwise. The reality, they say, is that they're trying to balance an entire town's budget, and they've got a couple of thousand taxpayers to think about. So, Davis's last day will be December 31st, and the town is searching for a replacement. According to the state's Department of Environmental Conservation, all the paperwork's been done for New York City's water withdrawal permit for the Catskill watershed. So that's that. Ha! Nah, it's never that simple. The city and the Coalition of Watershed Towns, that's the CWT, they're still talking. Local towns want the city to promise to keep paying for several programs up here, like the ones that pay for things like septic system upgrades, wastewater treatment, forest conservation, even lost economic opportunities. And they like the city to stop buying up land, too. Thing is, the city can basically say, nah, we're not doing any of that. But it's trying to be a good neighbor and work with the CWT, so they are still talking. Meanwhile, the state has a comment period open all about that withdrawal permit, and Delaware County officials are talking about maybe adding a comment. It won't make a difference, but it'll be on the record. Anyway, there's a ton more in the paper about the whole city taking water thing, so if you want the details, you'll want to pick that up. or at least get a digital subscription so you can read it online like all the kids do. What else is happening around the county? Well, if it snows in Delhi and you don't shovel your sidewalk, it'll cost you $65. The village trustees just signed a new contract with a company to clear snowy sidewalks when property owners don't. Now that's lower than last winter, but still, there's probably a better way to spend $65. And also remember that when it snows in Delhi, you're not allowed to park on the street overnight, and you've got 24 hours after a snowfall to clear the sidewalk in front of your property, even if it doesn't have a building on it. Workers and actually patients at Margaretville Hospital are a little worried because they learned the hospital is switching contractors for its physical and occupational therapy departments. The hospital says the idea is to offer better services at the hospital itself and at the Mountainside Residential Care Center, otherwise known as the nursing home. But still, change is scary stuff, especially when you're talking about jobs and when you're talking about healthcare. And when the hospital's executive director, Michael Hockman, said he couldn't promise everyone would keep their jobs, it's the contractor that does the hiring, not the hospital. Well, that did not make people feel much better. Our hope, he said, is that the department looks the same. And that's probably the same thing the staff and patients are hoping for. Well, here's hoping. A quick bit of grant news. 7 local snowmobile clubs will be sharing state grants of more than $143,000 thanks to the county officially sponsoring the grant. That doesn't mean the county is actually paying the money. It's just a weird thing about the grant that the county has to agree to administer it, but the cash comes from the state. The money will go to developing and maintaining trails. Side note, Delaware County has at least 7 separate snowmobile clubs. The county also accepted a $300,000 community development block grant from the state to help micro enterprises. Those are businesses with up to 5 employees, and the grants will range from $5,000 to $35,000. There are a bunch of important details, obviously, like how much the owner has to match, what the money can be used for, stuff like that. Those details will be put on the county's Economic Development Department's website. The link is in the show notes, but right now that site is basically blank, so I don't know what to tell you. There's a phone number. The county's new network of weather stations is up and running. Officials are just going to have to learn how to use the back end, and then soon enough, all the info will be available to towns and villages and even residents. But first, they need to learn how to use the software to get all that data somewhere they can actually see it, like a website. Then they can share it. With the government shutdown over, SNAP benefits are back, at least for now. But HEAP, which helps pay for heating in the winter, that's still up in the air. HEAP is usually funded by the federal government, but that program's been cut as part of the Big Beautiful Bill. So at the moment, the county and the state are the ones basically helping people not freeze. They're doing it through a program called Emergency Assistance to Families, which unfortunately doesn't help as many people. Hopefully, HEAP benefits will come back at least in some form, but right now the county social services folks, they don't know what's happening. SNAP benefits are still at risk, and luckily some locals are stepping up to help people from going hungry. The Tri-County Seniors in Sidney opened a little food pantry outside the former Tri-Town Hospital on Pearl Street, and that's where people can take or give shelf-stable food, no questions asked. And in Walton, one woman gave the owner of Bongzo's on West Street some food to distribute to anyone who needed it. And that sparked a whole flood of giving. And now there's bread, canned vegetables, frozen pizzas, even meat, milk, eggs, sometimes infant formula. And then there's Alyssa Melendez, who works at the Department of Social Services. She asked county employees if they could contribute to a local food bank, and it kind of got a bit out of hand in a good way. Instead of just one table of stuff, people from every county department contributed, and they ended up with a huge haul of food for the food bank. Oh, and this is kind of cool. The folks at the probation department, they realized that when people are hungry, they really aren't able to celebrate birthdays, so they donated more than 30 cake kits to give to families in need. Anyway, the whole thing was so popular, they're going to do it again in mid-December. Obviously, you don't have to wait, though. If you can, donate to a local food bank. There's a list on the Delaware Opportunities website, and there's a link to that down in the show notes. And that is it for this week's Off the Record. You know what to do. There's plenty more in the Reporter, like why the former Colchester police chief is suing the town. A big story all about the history of cottage cheese and other dairy at the Breakstones plant, the Lactalis plant in Walton. And Middletown is looking to tweak the speed limits on routes 3 and 6. And there's even more. You just need to pick up the paper. Better yet, subscribe. Head over to the-reporter.net. It is your hometown paper and a lot better than social media for getting the news. Until next week, I'm Andrew Kantor. Thanks for being here.